Hi, I'm David Berman, and today I'm going to demonstrate to you how to specify the document language in a Word file or a PowerPoint file. I'll describe as I go so you can learn what you need just by listening or reading the captions. I'm showing a sample file that's not yet perfectly accessible in the latest Word 365 for Windows. However, this technique works equally well in Word 365 for Mac OS, and similarly in PowerPoint, as well as earlier versions for Windows or Mac OS. Having a file that has its document language properly specified can benefit everyone using your file or searching your document, and it's necessary to make your document conform to accessibility standards such as WCAG 2 or WCAG 2.1, specifically for the success criteria called language of parts. So let's learn how. So here I am I'm showing my document. I'm on the first page of a document, and we want to specify what human language the entire document is in. Now, there's a feature in Word you may be tempted to use. It's called automatic language detection. Don't use it. If it worked, we'd use it, but it doesn't work. Even by Microsoft's own admission, this feature cannot be trusted. It's unreliable. So if you've turned it on somewhere, you should turn it off. This is how we do it to make sure we have a reliable language setting. What I do is I select all the content in my document. So I'm highlighting my entire document using a Control A in Windows. And then I'm going to the Review menu. And in the Review ribbon, there's a command called Language. And in the Language submenu, I'm choosing Language. And then I choose the command called Set Proofing Language. So again, that was Review ribbon, Language, Language, Set Proofing Language. When I select the Set Proofing Language command, I get a list, a pull-down menu of various languages. Now, in this case then, I'm offered the languages that are installed on my computer. So if the language you want to specify isn't already installed on your computer, unlikely but possible, then you would need to install that language on your computer. In this case then, because this document should be in Canadian English, I'm selecting English Canada from this menu, and then I select the OK button, and I'm done. However, I'm going to go back to that menu, and we'll see that when I went Language, Language, Set Proofing Language, for those of you who can see my screen, you'd notice that the Detect Language Automatically checkbox is checked. That's that command I want you to avoid. So I'm going to uncheck that so it doesn't try to detect the language automatically, and instead make sure that we have English Canada set. Now, while I'm here, if I wish, I could choose the Set as Default command as well, and that would set my Word for Windows or my Microsoft Office, my PowerPoint for Windows, my PowerPoint for Mac OS, my Word for Mac OS, to set English Canada as the default language for new documents in the future. You can do that if that suits your purposes. I'm going to select OK. So now our language is set to English Canada. And because I had the entire document selected, all the content selected with Control A before I started, my entire document is now set to Canadian English. And that's how we fulfill the language specification for the entire document. Now, if your document has more than one natural language in it, there's another success criteria in WCAG about what's called language of parts. And it tells us what to do if we have, let's say in the middle of an English document, we had one sentence in French or German or Spanish. Because if a screen reader, for example, came along and reached that sentence, we want the speech synthesizer to switch over to announcing in the proper intonation and pronunciation for the non-English language. So for example, let's say I wanted to take the phrase here, I'm highlighting a phrase on the opening page here that says amendments, no. And let's say that was going to be, let's say in French, amendments, non. So I'm going to highlight that phrase, and I go back to the exact same command in the review ribbon, language, set proofing language. And now I'm setting the proofing language just for that one phrase, because it's the highlighted thing, to French Canada. In other words, the Canadian version of French. And now when I select OK, just that one phrase is in French, but the rest of the document is still specified in English. And so you'd have to go through the entire document every time there's a phrase that is not in the language of the entire document, English, and select the correct document. And there are some exceptions to that in WCAG. For example, we don't have to worry about setting the language for proper names. And that's how we do it. One other caveat I want to point out to you is that I started off by saying select the entire document and set it to English. Now, if someone had already gone to the trouble in your document of having set the proofing language for instances of French or German or Spanish or whatever other human language, then you'll have wiped all that work out. So be cautious not to wipe out the work of others. But the easiest way to find those other phrases is actually to have the spelling and grammar checker run on the entire document. Because let's say you selected the entire document and set it to English. But you're wondering, I wonder if somewhere there is phrases in another language. Well, when you run the spell checker, conveniently, the checking language is set to English for every word in the document. And therefore, your spell checker will probably find any sentences that are in a different language. And so the spell checker itself is going to be the way that you can probably find all the variances into other languages, although the only perfect way to do it is to carefully read the entire documents. So that's it about language of page and language of parts. It's how to specify document language in Word and PowerPoint. Why aren't I mentioning Excel? Well, very bizarrely in Office, although Office is really good at accessibility, oddly there's no way to set the document language for an Excel file. It's just that feature is not in there. So maybe Microsoft will fix that someday, but that's why this recipe only works for Word and PowerPoint files. So if you have any questions, post them or contact us at wcag2.com or follow this channel for more techniques. See you next time.